All right, we're back. Part 2, Independence Arc. Marco and Alicia here. If you did not get a chance to watch our first video, it's about 15 minutes long. Take a listen. It's part 1. This one might be a little longer, so hopefully you guys will like our info that we have here, that we go over our journey for homesteading as city slickers. So Alicia is going to ask me a question. I will answer it. We are on question 3, I believe, right now, so we'll probably do about 2 more after this one, and she'll answer the same question. So what's your question for me?
So this is just in review of us, our first year homesteading. What was the biggest accomplishment that you've had to date?
I think for me the biggest accomplishment was just to honestly get out of my comfort zone, never being on the farm in a way, like of course as a kid a few times here and there, but I have no experience, and I'm not one of these guys that would easily get out of his comfort zone. I'm not a handyman, so for me this was a very scary experience because I knew I had to learn a lot of stuff that I'm not comfortable with, and to have I guess in a way just to be brave about it and just say, you know what, this is what I believe is the best move for our family. Was for me kind of like a wake-up moment and something I'm just basically, simply put, proud.
Yeah, that is definitely something, if you're considering homesteading, you will be constantly put out of your comfort zone. You will be constantly put to the test and learning new things. It's definitely an adventure that we've had this past year. For me, my biggest accomplishment was when we bought a horse. I had always wanted a horse. It's just such a beautiful animal to have, to look at, to companion with, and I learned how to train a horse because it did not really have a lot of good manners when it first came. We didn't know that because it was severely undernourished and weak and lackadaisical, but once we packed on some groceries on her, she started to feel her oats, is the term that they use, and she started to really come into her own horsiness.
Bonnie is her name.
And she,
Yep.
you know, I taught her how to lunge and how to stand still for, you know, getting on her and riding her. And obviously it's still a work in progress, but for me to take that step and learn how to train a horse was kind of a big accomplishment for myself.
Yeah, me watching that, by the way, we have a pretty good setup with a house kind of up on the, it's kind of like on the hill. You can really see the outline of Arkansas, all the trees, and it's just beautiful. There is a pond as well, which, like I said, we'll show you all this as we make more videos. But to watch her doing her thing here with Bonnie, it was just, the experience of me witnessing this was really good. Just mesmerizing, because I know how happy she was, because we used to do, well, I wasn't, but she was doing lessons when we had something going on in Reno, in Las Vegas, both places she had lessons. So I know that that's something she loves to do. And for me, this is slightly off subject, I always wanted land. I always wanted to have possibly my own tennis court. And you need a lot of room for that. You need no HOA. You need to be having a lot of land facing north and south versus east-west because of the sun. Not to go into this too long, this might be a pipe dream for me, but I wanted land because of that. That is my dream. That hasn't happened yet, but we are definitely on the way to do that as well.
Well, those are just two of the out of the very many accomplishments we've had, I feel. But those are some very big ones, and many more to come. So now that we've looked at our accomplishments, what would you have done differently?
I think money management, when it comes to if any of you guys decided to do what we do, and if you do have, of course, hoping you have land that has lots of, trees and stuff, you want to definitely get handy with a chainsaw right away and start using some of those logs and make these, posts and go around instead of, we wanted to make it look really good, which it does, especially up front. I'm not. I'm not saddened by what we did or upset by any way. I just think that it was a good learning experience, knowing if we continue on, we have so much more acreage to go, that we would just use the stuff that we have here, save a bunch of money, use the electric fence possibly instead of using expensive fence. All of this is probably one of the main, most important reasons as you're starting out. It's just basically like your business. You have to know what your overhead is and all of that. And I'm not very good at that. And that's where she comes in to kind of remind me, hey, this is what we can do differently this time. And that would be one area that I would like to improve as we go on.
Yeah, the fence was something that we decided to put in immediately because we wanted to get cattle out in the field right away. So it was kind of one of those decisions that had to be made, or literally have no animals until we got it done ourselves, maybe if we went a little bit slower. So we felt like the immediacy of needing cows outweighed the fact of taking it slow and maybe holding on to some of our resources that we had. So it really depends on what your goals are, what your vision is for your idea of a homestead.
And what your budget is.
And if you are having a larger budget or a smaller budget. And this would be another piece of advice to let you know is that, a lot of people talk about homesteading, because they want to reduce costs and, not pay so much for food. The first year of getting into homesteading, it's not so much about saving money, it's about setting yourself up for the future, and that is something where you got to remember. For example, we've got eggs, we've got chickens,
beef. Of
course it's going to be more it's going to be less expensive to go to Walmart and buy an 18 pack of eggs for $2 versus getting all your chickens and having them lay eggs and building a coop and keeping them fed and nice bedding on the ground. But the point is that we're not doing it because it's cheaper. We're doing it because it's more self-sufficient, and eventually that investment will pay itself off. So that's something that's very important to remember when creating your homestead, is looking further down the line as to what your long-term goals are rather than your immediate goals. Because obviously if we never got chickens, we could still be buying eggs at the store for $2 a dozen.
That's right. So basically just look into what your priorities are. Like for instance, if you, like I mentioned earlier, maybe for fencing you can go a little cheaper. But when it comes to how much money you spent on turkeys, well, how much money you spent on chickens, like Alicia mentioned, that is your investment. This is where, like I said, like she mentioned, you don't have to go to the store because you have it here, and you can possibly start selling stuff, which we do at the farmers market, which we have the banner behind us every couple of weeks or so, and go from there.
That's right.
So we got another question, which I don't know what it is, I forgot. So she's gonna ask me, and then she'll answer that same question.
All right. So I guess I need to actually answer what I would do differently.
Oh, that's right.
Getting into all of the animals, I also simultaneously started a garden, and that was a big step for me to try and do, because I had never gardened before. And I had read a lot of books about doing the raised bed method and starting your compost. And it's really hard to do everything at once. And I know that that was something that a lot of people caution against is, you know, don't just right away get cows. Don't right away, you know, get your beehive or get your animals, you know. Spend a year to get to know your environment, get to know your neighbors, and really decide what is the most important for your homestead. We kind of went in with both feet and jumped in right away, and I don't regret that at all. I'm really glad we did what we did because it was a huge learning experience. The only thing that I will be doing differently is the method of my gardening. It was disaster, I guess, to put it lightly. I grew more grass than anything else. The compost that we used was from Bonnie, and it had not sit long enough to kill all of the grass seeds in the manure. So I was basically, to put it bluntly from another gardener, planting grass in my garden. So I will definitely spend a little bit more time heating up my manure compost pile to kill those seeds, and using a lot more mulch, because the weeds here, it was a losing battle for me to grow anything. We did get some things out of the garden, like tomatoes and
we had eggplants that were as big as my head.
Yeah.
We had cucumber, tomatoes. We had something else, I forget. Sunflower.
Yes.
That just kind of like happened out of nowhere. But yeah, we had few salads made out of our own garden. Like I said, cucumber was awesome. It was huge. Something else that started out pretty good, but then we lost it. It wasn't a complete loss, but the corn. But she knows now what to do next, and I'm pretty sure by next year this will be a huge success. And I do believe that is one of the most important things, is that garden needs to get going, because you got your protein, you have it obviously through beef, you have your chickens. We had meat birds. We have turkeys, obviously we have egg layers, you know, hens. So you get all that, but you need some of those.
There's like a snake, or a big lizard in the ground.
Probably, yeah. A year ago, I probably would have just gotten up right now and picked up the shovel, or maybe just kind of nonchalantly walk away. But right now, I just don't even care. That's another part I want to add to this, is I'm not used to going out there and processing meat birds, killing snakes. I didn't even think I actually had it in me, but even that was one of the learning procedures, that you either do it or you get your you-know-what and go back to Florida or Vegas and, you know, get away from the farming industry or business, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. So besides the garden, I'm really glad we actually jumped in with both feet, because I feel like, again, we're in a situation of necessity to have to get your ducks in the row, become self-sufficient, and learn as much as you can as quickly as possible, you know, before, you know, we turn into another lockdown situation where, you know, there might be shortages at the stores again. And also, from what I've read, is that it takes a good 3 or 4 years to really get your soil amended to the correct pH levels that you need it to be really healthy soil. So, you know, if we don't start putting the compost in there and start, you know, really enriching it at this moment, you know, what better time than the present? So
that's right.
You know, yes, it didn't turn out exactly the best, most lush garden in the world, but again, it was a learning experience and a learning curve, to say the least.
I did not have high hopes for me figuring out what to do with 8 cows as they came out of the trailer and they were just going around and starting to eat all this grass. I was like, okay, so now what? Like I said again, you are put into, the ring. You're either going to fight or you're going to get beat. You're going to get beat up. So what we decided is we're just going to, like Alicia mentioned, you know what? Let's get going. Okay, the garden was the only one so far that hasn't succeeded, even though we had several meals out of that garden that she made. So again, not a complete failure at all, and I believe mistake is not a mistake unless you refuse to correct it. Remember that.
All right, well then the next question.
Mic drop. All right, next question.
The next question is, what is our next big steps for Independence Art?
All right, well, the next big step is how to market more, how to get our farmers market better through social media, everything like that, and just basically learn all of those loopholes that we need to learn about with USDA processing facility, exactly what is our profit going to be after processing with cows and everything is done. We want to look at that. So the next big step is to get better with numbers and to just market and grow our homestead, our business, our farm.
So I think that our next big step is actually the processing date that we have coming up in October, getting our cows to the processor and then selling that meat. So I know meat prices are going up right now. We do have farm fresh beef, grass-fed, grass-finished, and they are grazing as we speak right now. We have a beautiful view of them, and I think, if we did not get everything together like we did when we first got here, we wouldn't have this right now. Like we would be starting out at,
Yep.
I feel like behind the starting gate. So I feel like we did everything we could when we first got here to give us an advantage and a leg up for setting us up for the future. But still a lot to learn. We also have, I'm gonna give fall gardening another shot. I got some ideas up my sleeve for what we can plant for the fall, and again, this is not, if you mess up, it's not like you've lost your chance. Like the seasons come and go, and it's very cyclical and it's very steady and very continuous. It's just, are you going to wake up each day and work on the next project and count your losses, whatever they were, and move on and start something new, start a new adventure. Don't be afraid to pick up the shovel and build something. Or
the sooner you get started, the better. There's a lot to learn, so I don't regret one bit to jumping in. Well, most like head open your arms and just fly into the pool and just get it going. That's basically where it's at. All right, go ahead with another question.
So our final question, and I think you're just kind of leading into that already, is what advice would you have for people considering to have a homestead?
I believe all of these are very important questions, but my advice would be look into land where, as Alicia mentioned, I believe this was in part 1, that actually has some, of course, green grass. You don't want to just buy a lot of land that's not green, lush grass. You want to make sure these cows, if you're doing anything with the cattle, of course, you got to make sure that they can graze, because that would be a huge expense, and a lot of people may not even want to buy any of your beef if they know it was fed through all these chemicals and stuff. So that's the biggest one. Maybe not looking for exotic states. Yeah, it sounds great. You can do this in places like Nevada or Florida. Maybe it's an hour to go to the beach, but now you are paying $500,000 for your property when you can pay maybe $200,000 in a place like Arkansas that has a lot more land and it's lush green grass. So that would be, this is probably, in my opinion, the most important part is to where you end up going, what is your budget, and if you do go below your means, you can actually have a lot more cash now to do maybe a lot more money into that fencing if you really wanted to make it look good up front, or whatever other expenses, bigger barn, whatever, instead of buying one horse, maybe 2 or 4, 16 cows instead of 8, whatever the case may be. You can free some room instead of just going into a place where, like I said, it just sounds exotic, because that's not the point of this. You just want to be as self-sufficient as possible, and that doesn't mean that you want to have a big overhead. I think that's the biggest, bad debt is the biggest killer, and that's what's happening now in our country, which is all kind of tied up in what we're doing here. We can talk about that in a different part too, for sure.
So yes, the advice that Marco gave is absolutely correct. Don't spend more than you need to on things. Also, I really would recommend just taking one day at a time. It can get overwhelming at times knowing how much work needs to be done. Just know that, if it's not a wasted opportunity if you don't get it all done in the time period that you have in your mind, because you have to look at homesteading as a marathon. It's a journey. It's a lifestyle. It's not it's not a job that's going to get done between 8 and 5. You are now married to your land, and it's a great feeling because that is the source of your self-sufficiency, and so you know that it's a partner with you in your life journey. So I feel like just taking one day at a time is really good. Reading lots of books, taking advice from as many people as you can. That's all really important advice for you. And as far as just selecting your property, we were fortunate because we have not only a pond, but we have a water source that actually comes through the mountain. So a fresh spring in the back couple acres of our property. So having that fresh water source is a real relief to know that is there if anything ever happened.
And the reason is, I don't want to forget this part, is we believe with what's been going on globally, especially in the United States, that to have, again, the only reason why we're doing this and we're making videos to kind of open a little bit of everybody's eyes if they are possibly even thinking about this. It's maybe not as much as right away, like Alicia mentioned, to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. It's mostly, is the store going to have whatever you like the next day you go in. We already had shortages of toilet paper last year. We did some orders through Walmart when we buy our necessities, just some basics, and half and half wasn't there a few times. In Florida one time it was no orange juice available at Publix. This was last year. I know a lot of people were thinking this was it for this pandemic and all the things that were following with the pandemic. So that's basically the biggest reason. If you believe that things are not going back to normal anytime soon and you have an opportunity, because you do have possibly a remote position, a lot of people do nowadays, and you are not pulling that trigger to maybe look for opportunities like this, you might get stuck in the city where things are going to get, unfortunately, I believe, a lot worse. So this is why, this is also one of our biggest decisions we went into to get to be self-sufficient.
Right, and also it's really an awesome experience for the children and ourselves. We are really becoming very resilient when it comes to figuring out solutions that we would have never even had to be put in if we were living again in a city lifestyle. And I feel like this opportunity to homestead has brought so much growth for myself, and there's so much intrigue and in the lifestyle. And you know, if you are really thinking about doing something like what we are doing with our homestead, I encourage you to look into it more, because I think this was one of the best decisions we could have made for our family, especially with small children, to give them that experience growing up on a farm and taking care of animals. And while they might be too little yet to really take on some of the farmhand chores,
the sooner they start, the better, for sure.
The sooner they start, the better, and they're already getting acclimated to being outdoors and, you know, having, you know, time where they can see animals. Even that just adjustment where, you know, is a huge difference than what we had before, you know, in Las Vegas, where it was, you know, mostly indoor time, mostly
or
indoor
you are outdoor in, you know, on the quarter-acre lot, which was kind of a big deal. We had a quarter-acre lot in Las Vegas. That's kind of like I said, it's most people don't even have. They have barely any room. It's all these cookie cutters, and you can barely fit your barbecue in the back. So you got kids that walk out, you know, they want to jump in one of those plastic pools, you know, you got to change their diaper. Here goes 50 neighbors watching over. If you're out there, here, I can walk outside in my underwear and have coffee. Nobody cares. Nobody can see you. So for me, that's huge, to have privacy, not to walk out in my underwear. That's just, you know, a funny way of saying it, but it is true. It's the privacy thing and freedom. Keyword for today, freedom.
That's right, freedom and independence. It's been such a breath of fresh air. So that would be our advice. Thanks for joining us on our journey as we are homesteading for Independence Ark Farm. And check out our website, www.independenceark.com. We do have sides of beef that are still available for sale, that are going up for processing soon, and some other farm goods. So check us out on our website, sign up for our newsletter, and we will have more videos to catch you up with farm life and homesteading life here in the near future.
Yes, and we will show more of our animals. We'll do videos like that so you guys can actually see. Yeah, but if you go on that website, as Alicia mentioned, you can basically lock your price. As beef has gone up just year to date, I believe something like over 30% for certain cuts. So whatever the price you lock with us, that's what the price is going to be. So that I believe is something that everybody should think about if you are obviously looking to get some beef.
That's right.
So that would be it for today. So we had part one about, what was it, 15 minutes. This one is a little bit longer, maybe 25 minutes. Again, like these videos if you like them, share them with your family and friends, and I really hope you make some good decisions for your family, and I think you will if you are even tuning into this channel or staying with us watching part two. So take care, God bless you all, and we will talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.